lead us in invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for your mercies to us and for the good night we had last night in the borough. All those who showed up, those that volunteered their time to make it an excellent event. We do ask that you continue to be with the needs of the borough as we have important issues that we have to deal with, the zoning, with the municipal building. We pray that you would guide us as we make those decisions. And we know, Heavenly Father, that be on our hearts. Scott's mother and how difficult that is. We pray indeed that you be with the family, that you be with the doctors as they provide treatment and advice. And ask them to heal her and relieve her pain from what she's going through. And Heavenly Father, as we think about this evening, we can thank you for first responders, for the police, for fire police, for all those who, and for our borough workers. Thank you for each of them and the dedicated service they provide. We pray these things in Jesus' name.
Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Secretary.
Here.
Mr. Erickson. Mrs. Deal. Mr. Darius. Mr. Crouch. Mr. Penner.
Here. Okay. All right, Mr. Glassner, why don't we start off with you so that way you can log off whenever you're ready and we don't have to bore you with further.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be at your meeting. I know your time is very valuable. So I'll quickly do an overview of what of our June 2nd meeting with Fred. And we're doing document conversion of township records, borough records across Pennsylvania. To give you a little backdrop into 2020, CARES Act money that was released so that because of the disaster, you wanted to work from anywhere. You couldn't get into your offices to create digital into your file room, so you can't actually show documents. So a lot of companies basically hired us to come in and take all their documents and create digital images. We're doing this work across Pennsylvania. In Bucks County, Pennsylvania, the district attorney, we've done 5 million images for them. So we've taken all their boxes of records, we created digital images so they can get rid of their warehouse space and eventually do destruction of records. I am the responsible person for director of sales for record storage, for document destruction, and document conversion. One of the things we offer for your community in Newville would be to have a document destruction day for all your residents, where we would move a mobile shred unit on site, and your residents on a Saturday or a weekday can bring all the documents in, and you can destroy your records for your residents of Newville Borough. What I'm here to talk about today is taking records. I sent out a document today about West Hanover Township, a success story we did there. Townships and boroughs across Pennsylvania are using the American Rescue Plan money that you get from the county commissioners to possibly digitize your file room and create digital images, wide format, permits, planning documents, all those type of business records we take and we move to York, Pennsylvania, and we convert them to digital images. We give you flash drives back. So now you have electronic images that you can access from anywhere. You get two flash drives back. One you keep there in your office, upload to a possible document management software, and you can take another one and put it down the street, or in the event the first one gets corrupted. It's all about disaster recovery. Our brains kind of got flipped during this pandemic where we weren't allowed to come into our offices anymore. So how were we able to access our files? So in the event of future disasters, i.e. World Trade Center, all the way up to pandemic, you have now accessibility to digital images by digitizing your records. The great news about this is it doesn't really depend on how many documents you have. It's set by your committee there and how much money you want to spend in the next year to digitize records. Every township and every borough in Pennsylvania gets the exact same rate, 7.5 cents per document, 75 cents per wide format. You set the budget, how much money you have available. I know that Fred, I think, basically said we wanted to do 2 different areas. We wanted to do water and sewer authority, and then he wanted to do old documents as well. And he was looking to do about $10,000 worth of work to start the project. But once you sign up with us, you set the margin, you set the budget, and we start working from there. The great story here real quick is that when I started doing, my background was 12 years with Iron Mountain, and then I ran a document conversion company for 6 years. 2 years ago, we had 2 people converting documents to digital images. Now we have over 30 people in York, Pennsylvania doing this. So it's a hot button for people. Digitize your file room. It's a disaster recovery solution too, because if something happens to your documents in your file room, or your building goes down to act of God or for fire or water damage, what happens to all those planning documents that are just hard copy records today? They're gone. If you digitize your records, you now have digital images that you can fall back on. You want to look at this as a year band theory. What I mean by year band theory is focus on 2020 and then focus on 2019, 18, 17. You want to do what is the most active records. And obviously 2021 is your most active, then 2020, 2019, 20. And you start going back in time until you feel that you got enough records digitized. So it's a year band theory. Digitize your records so you can work from anywhere, but also avoid a disaster. If something happens to your Newville Borough building where the records are stored, how would that affect your visibility in the community? How would that affect getting documents back out to people that need those documents? The great news is that how you manually look for the documents today, when you go search for your documents, you look for a planning number, for example. Traditionally in the lower right-hand corner of the wide format, we index the records based on your requirements. So if you wanted to be Bob Smith 1234 or planning zone number 1234, we digitize these records based on the indexing you tell us to do. And we've already done a test for a Newville Borough. We tested out some documents, and that way, instead of manually searching for them, you then can get multiple PDFs, and you basically pull up the PDF for planning document 1234, and all the documents that are related to that file of wide format and planning and permit information is inside that PDF. So now, instead of having hard copy, you actually have an electronic file of all the images, and it's safeguarded for the rest of the retention period. At the end of us digitizing your records, we can go ahead, give you a chance to QC everything, and then we can go ahead and destroy the records for you if it's needed. And that's a question for your general counsel. If we have electronic images of records, can we destroy our records? It's a great question for your GC. We can do that for you, or we can return the records back to you. So we offer the complete end-to-end solution. We pick up everything, we take it to York, we digitize all the records. West Hanover Township white paper I sent out is a great example of the complete process which we did for them. We're doing this for townships across Pennsylvania. We're heavily involved in county government. So, whether, all your wills and deeds, your marriage license in Cumberland County, for example, we do all those records as well. We're doing work digitizing records across the state of Pennsylvania. Higher Information Group has many different divisions. We have security cameras, we have copiers, printers, we have help desk support, we have IT support. But Higher Information Group has the complete end-to-end solution. We can store your records, we can store them. A real hot button today is something I mentioned a few minutes ago, mobile shredding events for the citizens of Newville Borough. I'll open it up for questions at this time.
How current, if you started 2021 or 2021, do we add them or do you add the new reports coming in?
Yeah, so I think I heard your question a little bit, but if we picked up records from Newville Borough for 2021 and we have them down in York, we're digitizing them, you have complete access to this information. If you needed a document for plan number 1, 2, 3, 4, you would send us an email in the morning, you'd have it back to a secure site in the afternoon. If you call us in the afternoon, we have it the next morning. So these are your records. We use image on demand. So we're doing a complete backfile conversion of $10,000 worth of records. But if something for an active document from 2021 is needed, or 2020, we do it. We move that box to the front of the line. We digitize that planning document, and we get it over to a secure SharePoint site for you, or a secure site that you want to send it to, and then you immediately have access to them. So even your active records, you'll have back within 24 business hours. I hope that answers your question.
But yeah, I must probably confuse you. From, say, we start the program today, okay? And then the future, any future records, how do they get into the system? Does Fred add those, or do you come get those?
Yeah, it really depends on the document management software you're using, but on an ongoing basis, based on how much money you have available on your budget, whether it's 2021, 2022, we can come and every year, we can come and pick up more records and digitize your records as well. The whole idea is get away from paper, digitize the paper to digital images. So in the event of disaster, you lose your building, you still have digital images of all your records of the history of Newville Borough and all the planning documents.
So, the digital version of a copy, they don't last forever. I mean, even the digital, at least that's what my experience has been. Even the digital copy will disintegrate over time, digitally. So what is I mean, do you have any experience with that? Like, what's the lifespan of a document?
Yes. So your digital images on a flash drive, you're correct. I mean, it's the same with paper or microfilm. You may have, Newville's been around for a while. You may have some old rolls of microfilm. Everything eventually breaks down. But your digital images, whether it's a PDF or PDFA, PDFA, by the way, is the one that's kind of described as the leading thing for the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission. You have digital images. You have a flash drive and all the images have been uploaded to your document management software, where they're stored someplace. And that's the reason why we give you 2 flash drives back. So the digital images will be secure, and they will stay more consistent than the paper. Paper is vulnerable to natural disasters or acts of God, or just disintegrating. You have records for 50 years. The paper is not going to stay paper forever. But the digital images, whether it's PDF or PDFA, you're gonna take them off the flash drive, and you're gonna go ahead and upload it to someplace else, whether it's the cloud or your document management software. So they'll be secure and they will last. The digital images will not fade out. Paper will fade out quicker than the digital images will. Now, the Newville Borough may have something called microfiche. You may have microfilm, but right now we're focusing on the paper and getting that paper that is stored on site, getting it off site, getting it digitized. It's all about disaster recovery. Everybody remembers 9/11. It remembers the World Trade Center going down. 1,000 businesses went out of business in a blink of an eye because there was a disaster. Well, we just got done having a disaster of our own called the pandemic COVID-19, where you couldn't get back into your borough office. How'd you access your records? You couldn't. So you couldn't fulfill your mission, but by digitizing your records and having them accessible offsite so that you can work from anywhere in the event of another shutdown or disaster, that's the key thing. And once again, focus on your most active records. If they're dormant and inactive from 2010, 2005, we want to focus on doing the most active records first, but avoid the disaster of losing your buildings and losing all your documents. And once we start the process, we don't put a big, huge contract in front of you. You set the margin, you set the budget, and we work towards that number. If it's $10,000, we'll pick up records and we'll work towards 10,000, and then we will stop. And then you basically set another budget for the next quarter. We'll continue going forward until we get all your records converted to digital images.
Any other questions? We're good.
So the West Hanover white paper I sent over to Mike Gossard is we did about $20,000 worth of work from him. The American Rescue Plan that the commissioners have, CARES Act from last year, they use a lot of money as it relates to converting paper to digital images so that in the event of disaster, you can work from anywhere. We look forward to working with you, and we'll be, HIG is a current vendor of yours. I believe we have copiers with you. JC Collins is your account manager, and I will be your quarterback point of contact as it relates to starting the process of digitizing your records. We look forward to our continued business partnership.
Mike, you said that was Mike Gossard up at West Hanover.
Yep, Mike Gossard is the current township supervisor. He's mentioned in that white paper that I sent out, and he'll be more than happy. And what we did actually for them is we did a multi-hybrid solution where we actually designated some business records that can be destroyed right away because they're past 7 years, and they have records that needed to keep forever, much like the Newville Borough, have to be kept for 100 years. So we did a hybrid solution where we offered destruction and offered document conversion. So if you have some old documents that can be destroyed, should be destroyed, you want to get that done. And the reason why is because it's a little bit of a vulnerability. If you have Bob Smith's HR records from 10 years ago, and he had an injury, for example, and his attorney picked up the phone and called Newville and said, "Hey, I need Bob Smith's personnel records from 10 years ago," and you haven't destroyed his records yet, where you could at 7 years, and you have all his records. That's called discoverable information. So putting in place a record retention policy that you destroy records on time based on your GC, your general counsel's advice. So Mike Gossard, we did a hybrid solution where they knew they had records that were kept for too long. Oh, by the way, they lost a lot of records a couple of years ago because they had water damage in their basement. And they basically just threw the documents away, which is a very bad thing. But if you have records that have been around for too long, you want to get rid of them and have us destroy them because it could be discoverable evidence. You don't want HR records past 7 years, tax records, etc. You want to follow a record retention policy. And your attorney, your general counsel, can give you a document that will show you the record retention policy, the laws of the land as it relates to documents. If you haven't destroyed any records, then you need to get that process cleaned up. That's what West Hanover Township did. They basically went through all their boxes, slapped on a destruction sticker on one box and a document version on another box. We just probably destroyed as much as we converted it. We probably destroyed like 100 boxes of records that were left over from 20 years. You want to get rid of that stuff because your record retention policy says you get rid of it, then get rid of it, so it doesn't become discoverable evidence one day. We offer both those services for you. And if you sign a document conversion contract with us, we will destroy records free of charge for you. And then when we destroy the records for you, we will certify that we destroyed those records for you as well. We will give you a certificate of destruction. So I know that we've been talking about a $10,000 document conversion order. If you sign that order, we store records for free while we're doing the work, and we will destroy records for you free of charge as well, to get your kind of back file, all your documents cleaned out, and get you more consistent on records and chain of custody of your records.
I don't have anything else. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Anything I do, please reach out to me. We look forward to continuing working with Newville Borough as we do townships and boroughs across Pennsylvania. We're part of PSATs. So PSATs has some great information out there about the American Rescue Plan. A lot of townships are using American Rescue Plan, monies that were given to the county government. And the only thing you can't use PSATs for, or American Rescue Plan, is you can't fund pensions with it. So you can pretty much use it for anything. Well, I'll leave that up to you and your team. And when you need us, please, when you're ready, we'll be ready for you.
Very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Fred, well, do you want to discuss?
Well, Mike Gosser was a good contact because Mike was the township manager in West Pennsboro for many years, worked with us. And then he went to M&T Bank, and I kind of lost track of him. So that's good to know. We'll certainly be a point of contact and help. Here's our problem. We have records in this building on 3 floors. Main floor here, basement, and the 2nd floor. Many of our records date back to the 1990s. We have construction records for the water plant and so forth. We had an incident 2 weeks ago where we had a water leak in the basement. It was found by our cleaning person, and it was over in the boiler room, so we have no records there. But if it would have gotten worse over the weekend, we could have had records destroyed, just as the gentleman mentioned. So records in the basement, because of the climate control, they're really bad. Plus, for the ladies to go down and pull records, it's not really healthy, and it's, strenuous work. So in the new building, I'm hoping, and we will have a records room where we will have everything stored in filing cabinets rather than boxes. We'll have a desk and a copier that you can retrieve records. But we really have to go in and destroy. And Marcus knows that there is a Pennsylvania records retention law that we should be destroying documents and not keeping them. Good news is we have all of our employee files in order. They're segregated, and we only have those back so many years. And so that was done by Vermont. We did that last year, one of the first things we did. So we really need to get a handle on this. Water and Sewer Authority has been talking about it for 2 years. They committed to it at the last meeting with $5,000. So the overall contract is 10. If the borough would like to contribute 5, my thought is the first thing you should do is your minutes, your resolution book, and your ordinance book. And then from there, you can go into other documents. To answer your question in every year, then you could do your financial documents and your bills and things like that. Now, the good thing is, in the last year, we have really been able to take our financial documents and record them in 2 forms. First form is in Excel, where we have our bookkeeping, and then we were migrating over to QuickBooks, and we're still working on QuickBooks. Going to be a little bit slower now, but those documents, the point I'm making there is Jody could remove those on a flash drive and take those home. All water and sewer documents through our contract with Unilink, all those records back up twice a week to a cloud. So Water and Sewer Authority could have a problem here and be in business at Debbie Piper's house in a matter of hours. So financial records are good digitally. Paper records, we need to get ahead.
I guess I was trying to estimate, make myself clear. Say if we
How
started
long would
today,
it take you to do? That's what I think we're getting at. Yeah. So the answer to that is that it's driven by your finances. And that's why I asked the manager. Over in Washington Township, Jeff Eastman has a real serious problem that they have a modular building with no storage. And their township records are literally in shipping containers in the parking lot. And you think we're in bad shape. So what his township did, of course, they received much more money than we did from the raffle. They have put aside $40,000 and are going through the shipping containers and getting all that stuff electronically formatted. But it's how much we want to spend, and I'm really, I don't know what to tell you because we've never done it. Sure. And I don't know, if we do 5,000, see how far that gets us. If we can get the historical documents, the records, the resolutions, those are things you can't replace. We have things on our electronic format, our bills, our financial records, our bank statements, all those things we can retrieve those. And then
He said you go back 7 years. Can you just try to test it?
but once we adopt the records retention policy, then you can destroy it. And Mr. Knight.
I'll get a copy of that for next week.
So how would you just, not knowing, how would you destroy them? Burn them? How would you destroy them?
No, we would ask them to be, as
Professionally.
part of this program, if we take the digital imaging, they will come in and anything we want destroyed after it's imaged,
Yeah.
they will destroy. Or if we have boxes of documents, let's say from 95 from the water plant, we don't need those anymore. We'll just mark those, they'll destroy them, but they'll give us, it was in your records, a chain of custody. And so then we can keep it on record. That way, if Pennsylvania Open Records Office ever questions us, we have a record of what was destroyed. Now, the other part to that is they have a truck, they come out and they destroy our records. At the same time, they would have a shred day for the residents. Maybe we would go down to the park, people could bring their boxes of documents and they would get shredded and they would get a receipt. I know the chief has asked me, he's really up against getting rid of records, and he has no way to, you just can't burn them, he has to have a record. So we're either going to be faced with paying and have someone do it, or if we get into this program, the chief would send, the truck would come down, pick up his records, and then a week later deliver him a receipt for people. That's what we need to get in.
We have an excellent reason to get a handle on the records and destroy all those that we can. You don't want to move all this stuff to the new
No,
world.
and you don't want to take moldy, mildewy stuff.
Does that help you and Jody clerically, to get rid of stuff like that?
Well, right now, it's the number one problem that is retrieval of records. So clearing those records that we don't need anymore, they're taking up space. And if we could get, instead of boxes, it's very hard for, these boxes are 100 pounds. You've got to take a box down and then go through it, then put it back up on the shelf. If we have what I envision a records room where we have for each year 2 filing cabinets, maybe a room of 20 filing cabinets, and they can go in and it's organized. And then each year, as we have the records policy, we expunge the filing cabinet, then that opens up space. And then we just take those files and shred them. But that's the program that we really have to get into. It's long.
So the length of the contract is based on the dollar amount, not on the time frame.
Yes, it's driven by what you can afford. And since we've never done it before, I suggested $5,000. We can't use the ARPA funds because this is COVID-19 related. Same thing for the police department. We can use the COVID-19 funds for their records. I would suggest that we start at 5. This is what water and sewer authority said. Start at 5 and we get it in the budget, and then we can budget more and we can do more.
And the price per page doesn't change.
Now, once we sign the contract, that's it. As a matter of fact, their white format cost me down to $1 page when they come out. So they came down. And I imagine as they get bigger, that like you said, they went from 2 people to 30 people. Now you're starting to look for work. very economical to do. I'd like to talk to Mike, and I'll let you know what I find out. But Jeff Eastman, he stole one. And Jeff he worked for Newville. He was project manager on Big Spring Ave for New Enterprise. He was an engineer for New Enterprise.
Any other questions, Lou? Keep going, Vernon. Any citizen comments on your legal matters?
Things, the open records amendment provide a permanent process of handling alcohol events. The idea would be to amend the open container law to provide borough council authority to do permit alcohol at specific events, but one would have to be taken in a case by case basis. So I know we don't have a forum tonight, but you want me to do a draft of that? But give me your impressions of how the first event went.
No problems. Check with the chief. Checked with the chief, he said the same thing, said as expected. No problems, no issues. Oh, well. Fred's got nothing but positive comments back.
Even last night, people were coming up through the line. When is the next one? Why just stop at 8 o'clock? They wanted to go to 9.
What are you talking about, last night or the other?
You know, the concert. They're at, if you want to have a bad word, it is that why didn't it go to 9? Other than that, Bob Shively came over to me last night. And he said they had to get together of all the Parsonage Street residents. Prior residents, and they stood around after the concert. And he said, we talked, and he said it was great. I have not heard of that. You're on Facebook.
The winery, they were happy.
People raved about the food. That's why we went ahead and made 2 more announcements up. Because people were trying to plan these events now. A number of people said if I knew that, we would just come here and eat. We had a number of people tell us that they went to the restaurants in town and ate, and then came up with the program.
Well, it's kind of what we were hoping.
Everything that we have done from the start of the pandemic through last year, this year, the recreation program getting back has really brought the community together. You can just see it. There's just a real positive outlook about the borough.
We said that's the direction that we see how the first one went.
Well, I'll do something in draft form that you guys can look at. You don't have a forum, so you know, have it advertised yet.
Long shot didn't contact you. Because I told him that we meet tonight. And the next one, like 3 days before the concert, our next meeting. Concert, so if they wanted to be here, they would have to.
They weren't 100% sure they could even do that date because that's when they start harvesting.
Yeah, if they don't need to do a resolution, of course, have a special meeting to adopt it, but they're not going to be here for some reason.
I'll check tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know how they did economically.
There were lines.
There was a line.
Double line. 6 o'clock. Same thing with the pumps.
How much?
1060 a pump.
Yeah,
For a bottle?
for the slushy,
So much, really?
yeah.
Oh, some slush.
They sold a number
The
of bottles.
the glass, you know, like the cups of wine were 7 plus tax. And they had the whole menu up there for bottles, but and people were buying bottles also to get back to their seat.
All right, the other thing, I have done the draft of the order ordinance about trucks in the borough and trying to get it. What I've done is I've tied it to the study we've done. And the study calls for signage on various portions of various streets in the borough. And so basically, we're tying violations to that signage. So there are trucks violating the signage, which consists of basically 2 signs: no truck signage and except local delivery signs. So the 2 go hand in hand. And if you find a truck that's not doing local delivery on the wrong street, they can be cited. And if they actually cause damage on the street, put in the penalty section, there could be restitution for damage they do in addition to the fines, to the costs and so on. And then the idea being that we're going to keep track of the companies that are represented by those that violate it. Come down with having a company liable to police. So take a look at it. Can't authorize advertising yet, but
This is 2021-03.
yeah, I know Fred called it 06,
Yeah,
but
I got it at home.
But
There's no-
start out at 3. Okay.
So-
So get it up to 6. Yes.
So I remember we talked a little bit about, like local delivery, like the idea of Eric trucking, that's a local delivery. So this would not impact their business at all.
And the signage is going to say local deliveries are permitted. So
And,
that's the basis of the study.
so what's the deal with the school bus? So how would that be?
It's the local delivery.
Okay, so,
Well, the commercial, the school bus is only part of the commercial vehicle definition. But if you look at what's restricted, where the restriction is trucks, because of the signage saying no trucks in local delivery. So buses technically aren't prohibited anywhere.
Right.
I'm just, because, okay, you're saying under number 1C, that's just there because of the definition.
Right.
So we don't need to change bus stops, anything like that.
Unless we start taking kids to school with trucks.
No, I mean, it's over there, so we might need to do that come this fall. All right. Any other questions on that? Anything else, Mark?
No, it's
Administration?
Right, that's all the information. So
We have 2 prices. One is from United Foundations up in Morristown. And they will come in, remove the existing bin, or a footer, 4 walls, or a pad, concrete pad, and seal all the concrete for $14,153.81, and they will move the bin 3 feet 3 feet away from the existing maintenance building structure. The other company will come in and level the area. And they will install a prefabricated system. There will be no foundation for this. Basically, they will level the existing ground with stone or blacktop. They will set their precast walls on top of the ground. Now, I've got a concern about this, and I want to run it by the council, then I would really like to talk to sales representative, who's Kenny Mansfield's father. But if you look at the photographs of accompanying precast, you see really big domes. And what you do, your material is dissipated in the dome, which means you've got a lot of room before you even hit your side walls. If you come in and push, you don't have a lot of breakout force against those walls. You're coming in, you're scooping material, and pulling it out. And this is designed to store hundreds of tons of material. Whereas our bin is 12 foot across and 26 foot deep and would hold about 50 ton of material. So when you go into our bin, breakout force from your bucket is going to be much greater on those walls. Ideally, the footer and the concrete base would sustain that. You have enough room that you can push and you're not going to push your walls out. My concern is because it's so small, when you go into it with a backhoe and every time you start doing this, and as you complete your salt, are you then going to start moving that because this is going to ride on the surface? Are you going to end up moving your structure? Or is it that, you know, the sheer weight of these walls will engineering?
Now you're talking about the
Precast.
precast. I can tell you that anything that is not secured with enough pressure on it enough time, it will move. May only be a little bit, but it's going to move a little, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more.
And that's my concern about the precast, that over a period of time, it could caulk, it could shift back.
You said there's no foundation,
Right.
so just natural climate, you know, seasonal changes could cause, say, that kind of stuff.
Really, if I were doing it, if I were building it with my money, I would want a foundation.
Yes.
And I would want a wall set, because the other thing is, you know, you're going to set that foundation for your footer, and then you're going to put rebar around, and you're going to put rebar up so many feet and wire it and tie it. So, you know, unless you really, your machine, your operator has an illness or something, and he hits the wall, your chances of going to last a lot longer.
My other concern with that is with no floor, just sitting on the ground, you're, as they scoop salt, they're going to inevitably scrape away the ground. And after a while, you're going to have some depressions and you're going to have to level that up again, pack it in again to try to keep a solid floor there. You really need a concrete base to do stuff on.
If we had more of an area, if we were going with a bigger structure, I would say, you know, precast might be the way to go. But I think you're looking at, you know, about $4,000 more here. You're going to get a footer, you're going to get steel reinforced walls, and then you're going to get a concrete pad that is going to, you know, have expansion joints and then your walls. So everything is going to be contained. There's no chance of that salt leaching out or underneath or anything like that. think the better job is the more expensive foundation.
You're also going to spend $4,500.
Yeah, like Mike said, in a couple of years, you're gonna empty the salt out and you're gonna dig out before a pad.
Yeah.
People will say, why didn't they do this when they added the part last?
If the precast goes to pouring a pad and setting the twigs from rebar or something to tie that, just hold those precast panels in place, and that'd be a different story, but because then there would be something there to keep them from sliding. But, and I've seen that done, but, and I'm sure that adds quite a bit to their cost.
And the other thing is when you're pouring the walls, and if you can put all thread in to your walls to secure your camp. And then it's just a matter of having plows come, set it, write it down, and you're done. You're going to have to excavate everything to move it away. You're going to have your salt stored on your truck, so that's it. It's not going to be on our way. The guys can come in and build this bin. It takes them a week or two. When we're done, we dump the salt, and that's it. For hopefully another 30 years.
Plan on making that motion at the end of the month.
That's what the committee. I mean, we have time. I can talk to Ken's father and see what he thinks. But like Mike said, it's going to move.
We have had salt, getting the salt out of there without a pad.
But you're a magician, where that money come from?
Well, we have money budgeted for from our highway agent. We definitely cannot use the ARPA fund.
That was the one exception I had, like summary of what you keep funds for.
Well, the salesman will tell you that you can use it for everything. The federal government, the IRS takes a dim view of that.
Right. Yeah, he got me until he made that statement, so it's.
I can't tell you how many salesmen called or emailed and said, hey, if you got a wrap of money, you've got it. Well, how does it fit? Water, sewer, or broadband?
What's your calendar?
Okay, so the budget calendar is in your packet. We are ready to get started on it. This will be a challenging budget. Not that the other ones aren't, but this will be even more so. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we need to build into our budget. Number one, this will be the 4th year of our police contract. So we need to include the salary increases for the officers. Number two, we know that we will have expenses related to the debt service for the municipal building. And we will have to include that in our costs. That will be a new cost to us. We need to look at our long-range capital plan for equipment and see what needs to be built into the budget. We know that the chief has already told us that we should start setting aside money for new radios next year. So we need to keep that in mind. So those are a few of the expenses that we're going to be forced to look at. In terms of new revenues, the good news is that the assessed valuation from last year to this year increased by over $7 million, which if you take the current tax rate for the borough, that's about $31,000 of new revenue that we will have coming in because of that increased assessed valuation. So if you would like a project to work on, housing, housing, housing. It will improve the quality of life in the borough. it will remove blight, and it will help your assessed valuation, and thereby it will give you new revenue. It will give you new EIT revenue. It will give you new property tax revenue. And you're going to get younger families moving into the borough, healthier for the borough. I mean, you look at the crowds here, you know, for the music events, for National Night Out, and for our summer parks program. And the nice thing about our summer parks program, you look at the kids that are down, there's parents of those kids. It's not just kids, you know, in off the street. Hey, the parents are sitting there at the programs. So this is all good, but you know, and you say, well, where can we do housing? Well, we should be talking Crystal Audit, and we should be moving people in to look at Mr. Hockenberry's property. We know we can build 13 homes there. We've got property out at the end of Broad Street where we can maybe do 3 to 4 homes. And then we have those row homes on Fairfield Street. Mr. Darius said, you know, Chris and I look, we could do 5 or 6 nice new homes on those properties. And this will all improve the quality of the town, the housing stock in the town, and would generate new revenue for you. And when we do this, we don't envision us as the borough building these homes. We need to attract people in that are builders. We need to connect them with some financing opportunities through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Corporation, DCD. And I'm telling you, this is a wonderful time to do it. We've got the evidence of last year to show, and that's what I think we should be focusing on with Crystal Audit and Borough Council. That's the budget calendar. We begin to gather numbers from the department heads within the next few weeks, and moving ahead. The one big challenge that we will have this year is we won't have Cheryl pull the numbers. The process is going to be a little bit slower. And so last year, everything came together really nice. I hope some of the documents are saved on Excel. But we'll get through it. We will just take a little bit longer.
Anything else for administration? Anything for EDA?
I can report, I guess Jack's not here. Yeah. Okay, so today we had scheduled some meetings regarding the project that has now been labeled the Four Corners redevelopment project, the improvements down at the red light. And our first meeting was with Jamie Keener this afternoon at 1 o'clock, and Jack, Chris, and myself participated. And what we took away from that meeting is KDIC really does want to help. I should tell you, we've lost Valerie Copenhagen. She's left. They do not expect to replace her. So,
Where did she go?
She went with another economic development agency. The one thing that I had a lot of heartburn, and I talked to Scott about it, and you know, when you look at this project, you see land acquisition of $800,000, and you see us doing these acquisitions and then doing the grants. Where's this money coming from? I have to tell you, I don't know. Ed said, where are you going to find the money for a salt shed? I really struggled with this, try to find it. So today we talked to Jamie Keener, and one of the things that CADA created about 4 years ago was an REC, a Redevelopment Economic Corporation. And it's kind of like a redevelopment authority in that they will step in, and if you have property that's blighted or whatever, they will take over and manage. They will own it. They will buy it. They will own it. And then they will work on bringing a developer in and bringing the funding in. So in Shippensburg, there was a casting company that went out. And they bought that. And how do I know? John Epley was the manager at the time, and John was telling me, how great this was. Kadick stepped in, they bought the site, they cleaned it up, and then they found a buyer, which happened to be the Shippensburg University Foundation. So there was a successful solution there. In Carlisle, there was a Tyco building. It's out on Hanover Street, right behind what used to be the Hess gas station. There's the auto parts stores there. Well, Tyco had a factory there for years, and it went defunct a number of years ago, and it became an eyesore. So they stepped in, and that was the last project Jamie did. And the only thing that's held that up is there was a codicil in the deed that it could not be used for housing. It had to stay commercial. They're looking to have that lifted, and they believe they've got, well, they have developers in mind to step in. So I looked at Chris, and we weren't off the Zoom meeting a minute, and Chris called and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Problem solved." I said, "Let them do it. Let them come in and acquire it." This is how redevelopment authorities worked in the 70s. And I said, "Chris, this just takes us out from a big safe that's swinging over our head." And I said, "We can still move and apply for funds. We're still going to be a partner. But, if we acquired those properties, number one, we would have to insure them. We would have the liability for them. If the wall gave out and something fell out, we'd have to go in and clean them. Where are we going to come up with that money?" So this is a great solution. And we called back and we told Jamie, they have a meeting on Friday of the REC board. Chris knows some of the people that are on it. I know one person that's on it. And we're going to pitch our project on Friday morning. Jamie's going to take it in. If they're interested, it'll become their next project. So that's huge. So then at 3 o'clock, we talked to Beverly Cutzel from DCD. And Bev made the statement. I've known Bev for years. She used to work for DCA, getting ready to retire. And she said to me, "I hope you know you have the best guy in the state working for you in Crystal Law." So that's why we have him. But she basically told us, state CDBG money, multimodal transportation money, Keystone Communities Fund are all sources. So we have meetings coming up with a young lady from Keystone Communities program, with RAC program, Denise Rinaldi, and Ryan Emerson, who's doing work on the multimodal. And he's working over North Newton. He's helping provide grant money to North Newton for that connector path between the trail and the township building. So Ryan is already in the area. So now we know that there are multiple sources of funds that we can apply for. And that's where Chris comes in, because when you have DCD and DCD said, "Hey, your consultant is the best guy," well, that's a door opener for DCD, because they don't want to see the money going to the project that goes to nowhere. So the two conversations we've had today were very positive. Our next one is with USDA. And then our final conversation will be with Mary Coda at the Redevelopment Authority. We know Mary is going to be supportive. So I think when we meet on the 25th, it'll be much clearer for us that we aren't going to be assuming a lot of liability that I thought we would. I think the burden will be off of us. So that burden relieves us then to apply for funds. Now, we won't be doing any applications this year. But we will start, because some of these programs have already closed. Keystone Communities closes next week. So we will start applying next year, but don't lose sight of this. I'll be gone by the time this happens, but when your local share grant monies open up, make sure you apply for redevelopment in downtown, because that's where they love to spend their money. They'll give you money for a sweeper, or they'll give you money for a police court. Find some other way to go after this money for redevelopment, for streetscape, sidewalks, for lighting, crosswalks. This is where they love to spend this money. And here we are, a couple miles from the casino. They want to see communities in and around the casino development approved. So that's going to present a whole new, and really, it would be out of the question for the borough to receive a $200,000 grant. Because it's the money that was set aside, $2 million for the casino, the projected earnings, can only be spent here in Cumberland County. And if you want to compare that to another number, the federal block grant monies from HUD amount to 1.4 million for the entire county, and we're all getting by. We get, about 100,000 a year from that program. So this could very easily open the door to another $200,000 a year.
And the townships don't have the projects.
No, and that's why I say it. Newville, Mount Holly, Mechanicsburg, they're going to be in the catbird seat to go after large chunks of that local share money. And it's a single application. It's not a hard application to do. You've got to have an engineer's estimate. But 3 days you can put the application together. You submit it. It's non-competitive. They start, whoever comes in first, and they start to fund these projects, and when they're out of money, that's it. So it's a great opportunity coming up. Hopefully the casino will be approved. So my report is that the Four Corner revitalization project looks much more doable this week than it did last.
Does that, I didn't have time to look all the way through the doctors, Jack Davis, but does that project include any modification of that intersection to?
To the extent
You don't want to modify it too much.
you'll see new handicap ramps on the corners. You will see the utility poles for the signals move back. And you'll gain your location with mast arms. So the poles can be moved and positioned so that they won't be struck while mast arms going out. Nothing will be tied into the utility poles. So if your signal gets hit, God forbid, contractor can come in 2 days, have you back up, or maybe even in a day, have you back up and running. Whereas now, all the wires inside the PP&L, like the chief said, better hope the pole doesn't come down, because it will be a mess. So what we would be contributing to the project would be, I really think the signal, traffic signal, streetscape improvements, sidewalks, curbs, period lights would be the things that we should be focusing on as a borough. Because I think if you can get KDEC to come in and soon buy in for the building, then you bring a developer in and make that developer start to spend his money. Because the problem I had with the first scenario was the borough was fronting all the money. And then you had a developer who came in at the end and signed an agreement and said, okay, I'll take over this project and I'll pay you back $25,000 a year. That was, it was good for the borough. We were going to get something. My God, the borough had its money tied up, and let's face it, we don't have the money. Our money up there. So if we focus, and then the other thing is, if you do this for this developer, then you got to go up the street and do it for the next guy and the next guy. So if you just do public improvements, for streetscape improvements, then you could go around town, you know, everybody benefits, the whole town benefits.
Is there any way to tie that to the project we talked about to widen the street out, Main Street out, to save the cars parking on there?
Yeah, you could do that.
We've got, as we talked before, we've got a wide sidewalk out there. We can take some of that sidewalk away, widen the street out a little bit to give wider lanes through there so that
Well, keep in mind,
people would not lose so many mirrors.
that's possible because what you're going to do with 7 and 9 North High, fire those, demolish those for off-street parking now. Some of it will be for the rental, for the residential units that you'll have here, but there's still enough space that we could, you know, and I would focus on North High Street first. I would give those people on North High Street, we've been working with them for 10 years. And I would say, take care of their parking needs. And then continue to look on Main Street for off-street parking. But if you can open up North High Street so that you don't have cars parked on that street, you know, even if you do permit parking and generate some money for the borough, those residents will be happy to pay $75 a year to park at a safe place where the snow is cleaned and everything else. They'll be thrilled.
Else we need anyone?
That's about all we have right now. We will be moving ahead. We're going to finish up the application for the micro grant and the guidelines. And we have Dean Yockey's holding pattern. Once we have the forms done, hopefully at the 25th meeting, we'll be able to hand carry it set to Dean. He can fill it out and he should be the first grant recipient. Which Tom can talk to me on Monday, and he is going ahead and he's going to start painting the front of his building, which is where the military shop is, and pizza shop. He's going to start redoing that. So, that's keeping his word. He said, you know, once he got tenants in, we got some income, he was going to start doing sod work. So, I told him that this money is going to be available. He might be an applicant.
Parks and Rec?
The only thing I have, Kevin was supposed to get with Fritz, pricing for his metal beams.
Yeah, he did.
He did, that's all I had for this.
Mike and I are going to go up and talk to Tom. We're going to measure what we need for the underground conduit. We're going to measure what we need for concrete. And hopefully on the 17th, when we have our rec board meeting, we can give you a call.
Okay, yeah. That's all.
Stadium scoreboard was just today, so it's probably. Yeah, look at it sometime.
It does, it works remote control, right?
So there's a remote,
What's that?
there's a remote clicker.
Wireless system. Now, some of the smaller ones we have, console are only like this big. It's just, you know, score up, score down.
They usually show on the home team.
Yeah.
Dugout and. So, have people there that.
Yeah, the one that we've been doing down far, would be exactly that. One team sitting in the dugout. Like, one at the school, the stadium, it would be a big console. Anything else for Parks and Rec?
No, that's all.
Anything for public safety?
Only thing I can say is the chief talked to me last week. He was in the office, and as soon as, well, National Night's over, he's going to make some calls about the patrol. And if McGuire's cannot honor the contract, it's going to start to look somewhere else.
Yeah, he's upset about that because the previous time he talked to them, they told him he was only about a week away from getting a serial number.
Well, he told me there are departments all around us that are getting new cards. And there's no reason we should. But he might have more to offer next week. So I think we should, list the control partners so we have it on the agenda.
Last night, they got 400 in Hamburg. They got about 200. Boy Scouts were there, they were doing a good job of handing out money. So we had a number of Hamburg patties left over that were used. So when I had a meeting with the chief today about how we did last night, made a decision that they're taking the quart size storage and freezer bags. They're putting, they're going to package 6 in each one of the bags. On Facebook. So that they're able to stock it.
Good. Yeah, that was good meat, I tell you. That's excellent.
Anything else, public safety? Quality of life?
We did have a meeting and the committee has decided not to go forward with a James and Chance license. Instead, they're going to have a silent auction and it's going to be baskets. They have a lot of items that were donated like shampoo and soap and things. So they're going to make up baskets for a silent auction. They are going to set aside some funds from this event to incorporate. And they're going to incorporate the Newville Area Events Committee, just like the beautification. As a 501c3, as a matter of fact, most likely to retain Jim Robinson to do that. So this brings us to another item, our recreation program. I've had a lot of people offer, how can I make a donation? I want to make a donation. Some service clubs have asked, how can we make a donation? And then the other problem we have is right here with, contractor Dylan Strauss. So what I would like to do is at the next rec commission meeting on the agenda to create a fund, a checking account for the recreation commission. Have a council member, have the chairman of the committee, and have Jody as people that can sign checks. And start doing some fundraising over the winter months, get the information out. I've had some parents ask, how much do these programs cost? $300. Well, if I could get 2 people, could we pay for a program and sponsor a program? So we could, maybe pick up some sponsors. But it's a good way to raise money for a rec program. And just a thought, right now we've got everything kind of commingled in this events account. And it would be a good idea to split it up. The Recreation Commission, I think, is really taken on. We have good meetings, a lot of good work is getting done. And this money, this checking account would be used just for the summer program. It wouldn't be used to fix the basketball court or anything like that. It would fund our summer program. So if the ladies go down and buy materials at Sailors, they write out a check and that would come out.
Yeah, we put that in email the other day. I was just figuring how do we make it nonprofit.
Well, we could do the same thing with our recreation commission because more interested in that, of course, because that's what he did with the PDA. People want to contribute. And any number of people offer. I sat with Irv Nelson last night, and he said, number one, thank you all for the award. He is very appreciative. And, you know, he said, Fred, I'm getting up in age, and he said, if I can't take this money with me, where can I do the most good? And I told him about the summer program. Well, he loves baseball, and the mayor will tell you, he sits down there and watches the ball. Like, he would like to do some things with the ball.
He was one of the original Newville Cardinals back, starting in about 1940. He brothers, Reed brothers, my father. were the original Newvilles.
They used to meet in here and talk about, you know, during the war years, there was no TV. Hundreds of people would come out and watch baseball games. And so if you drive by on a weeknight, you'll see Irv up in the elementary school with his lawn chair. And then he's sitting watching.
He isn't just a softball name.
No, he loves baseball.
Oh, yeah, his certificate, when I was reading it said, the community chestnut. So,
Oh, it does.
yeah, and Bob Barry told me he is not junior. He's like, I've never been a junior, I don't think he's like, where it came from.
I thought it was. I thought when he was school board secretary, sorry.
It's just what he told me. He was nice about it, but. Look that up.
There's probably my scribble. Yes. Look like that's-
But I was reading this right from it, and I was like, and the Newville Community Chess thing, I just kept going. Chestnut contest.
we can make it.
I want to say that I was able to bring my wife to last night's event. And her parents had, we brought them up to Green Ridge, and so we bring them into Newville for parades and events. And so and she kept going on and on last night about how what a great town Newville. So we committed to the fact you created a hub for this region. It'll be better projects we're working on. Here's some fruit.
We need volunteers. to look at the thing. And we would do, like, one, I think, 2 or 5 of us. would take care of it. Just need more people.
That's a problem throughout the,
Oh, I know.
the region.
It is. I did.
I tell you one thing that, I was in a consortium meeting on Monday night, fire companies. They're going on and on about the Mennonites joining the fire companies. Unusual. Here's the local bishops have authorized it. It's being an important wholesome thing for young people to get involved in. That might be a source eventually of volunteers to do things. More active across the board.
Nothing under old business, anything under new business?
I have a report that came in today from the County Planning Commission regarding the municipal building, and they shared 9 comments. The 9 comments are, many of them are things that you would routinely see in their reviews. Some are issues that we don't need to concern ourselves with. They already exist, like curbs and gutters and sidewalks. So, you know, they will be replaced if needed. Overall, there's nothing here in the recommendations that, well, their comment appears to comply, and there's nothing that would stop it from moving forward. So next Wednesday night, this will be all the documents in your planning commission to take up. I will be here, or Bert will be here.
I have a question on that. Number item 4, on that sheet. I didn't understand that. I don't know what that really means.
Land should address the dedication of recreation land or a fee in lieu of dedication. So what it says in your subdivision ordinance that every time you create a subdivision in the borough, you must contribute $1,000 towards community recreation. So the borough council has the right to say to Mr. Godin, we'd like a check from you for $1,000, go into our rec fund. I don't think we should do that because the man is giving us this. He's in the building, it wouldn't be the right thing
Talk
to do.
about, look, give towards the.
Yeah, so when you come to this, I will have that you're waiving this requirement in lieu of.
Just stood out. I said, what is this?
But that, when they do the review, they look at our subdivision ordinance. And if I were creating a new subdivision, I would have to give you $1,000.
Or what you read there, it would sound like they're suggesting that since he's donating the land to the Greenway, we take that as.
Yeah,
in
and
lieu
record
of
the
the-
easement.
Of the monetary.
Right. And what Mr. McKnight will do is, in terms of his documents and his resolution, will also include it there. Now, we've also done some research. As soon as we're done with this, the next goal is to start to develop the agreements with Mr. Godin. And we will do all that, then have a resolution for you to pass. Hopefully, in the month of September, that happens, and then we can move on to construction. Get started before winter.
Brett, has Lucy contacted you with a scheduled date to advertise?
No, but I had thought about that, and I think she should pick a date to reorganize. And then we should maybe advertise a few consecutive dates for the commission to meet, so that we're not paying. We do one ad and that's it. And then if we have to cancel a meeting, even if we advertise 5 meetings and we only need 4, we can cancel one. But every time you put an ad in, it's $50. We do
That's a
one.
good idea. We need to have first meeting because we need to get.
I think the best thing for her is to call the members and poll them and see, what night is best for them to meet, and we can
Talk to her twice about it. I gave them their email. And talk to her personally, face to face about it.
I'm talking to her about that and her response. Part of my question to her, asked if she seemed to have, I'm not getting to it, if she would consent to have Susan set up the organization. Susan, I think Susan was very well. Sarah. Yeah, Sarah. I think Sarah would be Sarah would be very, very willing to do that, so.
All right, anything else?
Chris and I will be looking to set up a meeting with Mr. Darius. Because 3 of these properties in the Four Corners project involve Bob. What we want to do is appeal to him to give us the best possible price, especially in lieu of the fact that property down the street went for $50,000 and could be underway right now for developing as a parking lot. You hear Bob talk all the time about, he wants to do something good for Newville. I love Newville. There's an opportunity to do that. Anything that we can get in terms of a discounted acquisition price only makes it more appealing for data. It makes it more appealing for a developer.
I got a text message today that I suppose workers trim trees down at the house. So my street was piled up all limbs on the society property. And finished up with that local one.
Oh, well, last week, he had his secretary call. What did she ask? The tree limb came down, and we said, cut it up. But we told him, no way is the borough hauling away a tree. So if they have a pile of brush, I mean, we pick up, you see the piles of brush, but we're not going to pick up this entire tree. Trooper Keywa,
One sent me an email for a text message, whatever they trim is piled up on the historical society property.
they asked us for one limb, wasn't it? The tree limb came down. And they wanted to cut it up.
Maybe they thought the tree was destroyed.
No, it's just, well. That's all I'm going to say. See me after the meeting.
Move us to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Had a meeting last week on Thursday with Jessica Shilladay from DEP. They reviewed our application for new yard waste equipment. We're approved. We've been given an application number, so that means now we enter the competitive part. So we have until September to submit everything. But the good news is we can move forward with that application for $200,000 worth of equipment, new leaf collection truck and a tree trimmer.
And last night, our canine walk, loud crowd.
Is he part of the,
He tracked the robbery suspect. Where he ditched his car. Across Butcherville Road, through the woods, Taylor Road, a house. He occupied by his brother. And then house back through the woods. Back the opposite direction where the suspect ran out of the woods.
very good. As one has, weird. Felt with that to me.
Is that 3 hectares that they live in? Oh, yeah, that was me too.
You moved it, what? You moved it?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.